Have you ever thought about the origin of the word hero? Well, it first appeared in the English language in the 1300s and is derived from the Greek term for warrior. Hi, I'm Chris Anderson. We're at the Hampton Roads Naval Museum, and we're about to meet some unique warriors and other heroes on this episode of Hometown Heroes. This episode of Hometown Heroes is brought to you by Hardee's. The United States Navy was formed in October of 1775 when a small fleet of sailing ships were outfitted with bigger guns. And essentially their mission was to intercept ships bringing supplies to the British Army. This is where the story at the Hampton Roads Naval Museum begins. John Pentangelo is the director of the museum. Thanks for being with us, John.
Thanks, happy to be here.
What are some new and exciting things happening here at the museum?
Well, one of the exciting things that's happened, we've just renovated the gallery for the first time since we opened here in 1994. And what we did was the museum primarily showcases 244 years of naval history, so much of which happened in Hampton Roads. But what we decided to do is convert half the gallery to tell the Navy story in Vietnam.
And how did you go about, designing and establishing and setting up that particular area of the museum?
Well, what we did was, the very first thing we did is we had a conversation of what is this exhibit going to be about? And we are a Navy museum, and we realized that when most people think about the war in Vietnam, they think about protest at home, they think about the draft, they think about the Johnson administration, and when you think about the military, you tend to think about the Army and the Marines in the jungle. And what people seldom think about is the Navy. So we thought this was a great opportunity. It's the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, running from 2014 to 2025.
And out of all of the exhibits, what is unique, or is there anything unique in your collection that can only be seen here in Hampton Roads?
One of the things we have on exhibit is a Vietnamese sampan. It's a small flat-bottom boat. South Vietnam in the Mekong Delta is heavily populated by rivers, so they would be as commonly seen on the rivers as you would automobiles on the street today. This particular boat was captured in 1968 during an Operation Flank Speed, where 3 sampans were carrying small arms and ammunition. And the Navy brought whaleboats in to sort of get close, and once they figured out that these boats were carrying contraband, then they brought in river patrol boats. 2 of these sampans were destroyed, and one of them was brought back to the United States. And it sat in a Navy storage facility for 50 years before we put it on exhibit. And
is this one of the only sampans that is on view or on display?
That's a good question. It's certainly the only one that is here. I'm not aware of any anywhere else, but I could be mistaken.
And thousands of stories to accompany the exhibits that are here. How did you go about collecting the stories from some of these artifacts?
The Navy's really good about talking about ships, really good about talking about aircraft, big guns, things like that. Sometimes we forget about sailors. So what we wanted to really drill home to people is that these are human stories. The exhibit answers this very simple question with a very complicated answer. What did the Navy do in Vietnam? We tell the stories using artifacts, but good history is about people, right? So what we wanted to do was let veterans speak to the public themselves. So we went out into the field and we conducted over 40 oral history interviews with local Hampton Roads residents who served in the Navy during Vietnam. And what they do is they tell the visitor not only what they did, but also how they felt. Because when a visitor makes a personal connection with history, that will resonate and be much more meaningful.
During the Vietnam War, I was part of Lighter Reach. I carried on a YFU, which is a Yard Fleet Utility Craft, all manner of tanks, trucks, jeeps, personnel, food, anything to sustain war. When I first got there, I was scared. There's no doubt about it. You didn't know what to expect. But after the first few missions, you were young, I was 21 years old, I was bulletproof and made it through the first few firefights, so I didn't worry about it very much anymore. I just did my job. I was the senior engineer on board, What I worried about was keeping the engines running so we could move. You had to keep moving all the time. When you stopped, you were sitting target. But then, when I got my orders to leave in '69, and I knew when I was actually leaving the war zone, all of a sudden the missions became very scary again. Because you're worried about, my gosh, I've made it this long, maybe one of my last missions, I would not make it.
A veteran's transition to civilian life is challenging. Some try to find work like they have been doing, and others find great joy and success in basically starting from scratch.
I joined the military back in 1986 when I graduated from high school. At first I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but I was always a tinkerer with my hands. I've always been a cooker. I've always cooked at home. Even growing up, I would be the one that stayed in the kitchen with grandma and watch her, drop biscuits and make cornbread and things like that. So I've always been a cooker. I've always loved to be out on the grill cooking. That was always in me. That was always in me. As a CB in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Gitmo, you were tasked to keep up the vehicles that were there. And a lot of times we didn't have the resources right away, so we had to engineer things. A lot of things we had to engineer. We had to make do with what we had. It's still rewarding. It gives you an opportunity to see places and people and things that you probably would never ever see. And as far as me working at Hardee's, being a biscuit maker, I tell you what, come on down. Let me teach you how to make biscuits, because I guarantee you you'll enjoy it. I do, every day, I love it.
Tony has been here at Independence, the biscuit maker, for about 10 years now. He's done real good. He won the Biscuit Regional Challenge and he's won the National Challenge, so he's done a real good job with the biscuits here at Independence Boulevard. A lot of people think biscuits is very easy, just making biscuits at home is hard, and a lot of people don't realize that. But it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of heart. That's the major thing. You got to have a lot of heart to do biscuits, because you got to have to want to do it, attitude, because if you don't, you're not going to make it, because biscuits is really what we're all about.
I do come here every morning and I get my biscuits, and he just makes a big difference. He's in the category by himself, and you can tell, and I can tell these are made by him, because they're just different.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Y'all enjoying your biscuits?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are.
As always.
Born and raised on a farm down in North Carolina. My mom made biscuits daily, Monday through Sunday. And when I migrated off up here, I found these biscuits to be kind of like a duplicate of what my mom made, and they're awesome.
Biscuits puts a smile on your face.
By me being in the Navy and being a mechanic, it never dawned on me to, be in the restaurant business or anything like that. But like I said, I love to cook, and this was an opportunity for me. And now I love doing biscuits. It's great. It is one of the best jobs that I've had, believe me.
When we come back, we'll meet some more people who have found a new place to serve. Stay with us. After a hurricane or other natural disaster, people are often stranded, without a home and with no food. Gary LeBlanc founded Mercy Chefs to respond to disaster locations wherever they're needed. Now he has identified another kind of emergency in Hampton Roads, and he and his chefs are responding with great care.
Scoop and push, scoop and push!
I believe there is a better way to feed people that had just lost everything. And so Mercy Chefs was formed out of that love, out of that passion to care for people with a plate of food. People after a storm oftentimes haven't even taken the time to contemplate their situation. They're just in the middle of it. And over that shared meal, often they think for the first time, what has happened to me?
Max, you were here for the storm? Must have been pretty scary, huh? I'm glad you made it through, little man.
They get to leave the chaos, they get to sit around a table and share a meal. And in that time, they can make a plan for how they're going to get through the next few hours. They can figure out how they're going to get their kids back to school if the school is open. And so it creates more than just the meal itself, and I find a lot of satisfaction in that. I think that's really a pretty amazing thing.
We believe that neighbors helping neighbors is one of the best ways to do recovery. We're working now with over 16 agencies in the 7 cities area. We only do food. We don't do the enrichment part. But when we partner with somebody that is doing homework assistance or weekend care or after school programs, we're able to bring that high quality, nutritious food into communities that don't see that all the time. And it makes all those programs even more effective.
So we partner with all kinds of agencies, from the Portsmouth Health Department to 4Kids to the Southeastern Food Bank to Park Place School, and we cook food for them or do training around food, and that's a part of a program that they have that is making a difference in the community.
Just the difference that Mercy Chef has made for us, just the kids are not as angry anymore. They are simply coming in and having the ability to learn and not think about their stomach growling, and that's a big plus.
Before Mercy Chefs, the teachers would have to buy lunch meat or peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and kind of put them together and do the best they could to provide for the kids.
Right now, these kids have a great opportunity to eat, and then they can go into the classroom being filled, so they can have no problem with learning. Like, the focus is learning, not how much food I gotta eat later because I'm hungry. When I get home, I need to eat a meal. No, eat the meals here. When you get the opportunity, you have another meal for lunch. Can't beat it. Kids are very thankful.
1 in 6 children in Hampton Roads go to bed hungry at night. 1 in 6. And with our skill set, with what we're able to do, we just didn't think that we could watch that anymore. And so we began a very purposeful entry into community feeding and being socially responsible with how we used our assets in between disasters. I'm asked all the time, why do you do this? And I know why I do it. I get this incredible personal satisfaction out of it. I feel rewarded. This is what I was wired and built to do. I get to see people's lives changed. I know all the reasons that I do it, but I think the bigger question is, why don't more people do this? This is an incredible thing. Why don't more people get involved?
Service to others takes many different forms. Consider what you love doing and think about how you lose track of time in doing that. Identify your strengths and put them into practice. One soldier is using his talents to help benefit other people in the military.
My close friends kind of heard of me singing just around the area, do a couple karaoke's here and there. One of my sergeants actually had more information on a band and chorus out in near Sembach, Germany. You get orders to go audition for 4 weeks. I passed. This was my new assignment and my new job. We're the unit that goes out there and breaks the ice. We go out to these different nations and areas, and these people who can't even speak English but enjoy music just as we do, it brings a sense of togetherness for everybody. The influence is all over my house, always has been, with my mom and the rest of her side of the family being the singers, and my dad's side being nothing but dancers. They just kind of joined forces. When I'm actually up there on the stage, it's definitely humbling, breathtaking. It's a wow moment every time I'm up there. that person that gets the comfort out of singing in their car with the windows rolled up, or the person singing in the shower with confidence. It's that person on stage.
You
We'll be back with more stories of hometown heroes from the Hampton Roads Naval Museum when we return. Be sure to stay with us. We'll be right back. This episode of Hometown Heroes is brought to you by Hardee's.
One of my memories was in December of 1972. There's a big push on. My pilot, Jim Horsley, called him Horse. Horse and I were assigned to bomb Haiphong at night. We ran from east to west, and when we looked up, all the stuff was going over our head because we were very low. We could see our target. We dropped our ordnance right down the pier like we were supposed to. And then normally you'd turn left to get out over the water. Horse turned right into all this stuff. And I'm going, I said, okay. So we turned right, we went back to the shipping channel. And then we got down to very low so we could hide behind the ships and egress. Afterwards, he said, the reason I did that was all of the stuff was flowing over us out to where we'd be flying. So by turning into them, they couldn't shoot at us because they'd shoot at their own people. I said, oh, great pilot, saved our life. But then that night, going back to the bunk room, I got to think, I said, I don't know if I can do this. Really, it just hit me. I said, that was really, really, really scary. The 1MC, the captain came up, said, okay, we're leaving the line going to Singapore tomorrow. We're going. And that was, I said, holy smokes. Went to Singapore, had leave, came back, press on, good to go.
It's important that we remember the service and experiences of our veterans. Each one has a valuable message we can learn. And sometimes that message is a reminder that we all need to relax. And how we spend our time off says a lot about who we are.
AO1 David Steele. I've been in the Navy for over 19 years and enjoyed it why it's been here, and this is my hobby right here. This is what I do in my off time. I'm racing a Legends car right now. They're a spec car. They have Yamaha motorcycle engine in them. The one I have is an air-cooled 1250. It's not much you can do to the cars to gain advantages. It's a driver thing. It's all about the setup in the car and the driver. You can't dump a lot of money into them to gain an advantage like like the previous racing I used to do. It's a good, competitive, fun, easier to race class. Some people will say it's crazy to spend this much money on a hobby, but everybody has something. It's a passion. Just like anybody, if you're passionate about something, you do it. So it's anxiety and it's nerves and everything, but when I strap in and we're really rolling a track, that's when it all goes away, and it's just like, it's business. It's ready to go, but it's just an awesome feeling of being able to go out there and do the speeds we do, and the G-force and the feeling you feel when you're in the car and you're pushing it to the limits. And there's nothing like it. Some of the challenges of racing while being in the Navy is the time to be able to work on the car. Obviously, the Navy and family will come first before racing. We're a limited budget. Everything I do comes out of our pocket, so obviously racing takes money with tires and fuel and maintenance and things like that, but learning the setup and learning how the car reacts to different changes that we do to the car, whether it's spring changes or one of the infinite changes you can do on a car is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to racing. But doing it while in the Navy is, well, it's challenging, but it's the time consumption that goes into getting better every week. That's why I take it out in the evenings and get it done. Having the kids help or having a wife come out here and help whenever I can, and and getting things to try to get better. If somebody wanted to get into racing, I would tell them it's the silliest thing to do. You're just throwing your money away. Might as well flush it down the toilet. But it's if that's what you want to do, you got to race to your budget pretty much. And you know, if you got some money to throw at a race car, then go ahead. It's going to be the time of your life, and you're not going to be able to do anything that competes with it. You just can't take your street car out there and just go all the way to the edge, the farthest a car can go, and you know, with its ability, and do that until you get into racing.
David Steele found a way to keep up his morale, but for some that can be difficult. And in fact, far too many people do not seek help when struggling with emotional challenges. Peg Smith is a nurse educator who recently created an exhibit reminding us to ask for help when we need it.
My name is Peg Smith, and I came up with the concept of Have You Seen the Boots? What I wanted to do was to find some way to show people what a number was, because a number gets lost in a report or it gets lost in an email and it doesn't show you what we're talking about. These boots are 79 individuals and 79 families that are utterly destroyed. Suicide isn't about people dying. Suicide is about people just trying to stop the pain that they're in. And so I wanted to show people what 79 people in pain looks like.
When they're in times of high stress, or again feeling that hopelessness, that they're able to know their resources in order to reach out and again just say, I need to talk. It's a visual representation of each of those lives lost that we could help to prevent, and that's I think by Peg and her team bringing that to the forefront, it's again a visual a representation of those lives that we can help mitigate and reduce those numbers lost as we move forward.
As the display traveled around the NSA Hampton Roads area and the Naval Station since August, we gave people the opportunity that if they had been affected by suicide to please leave a note to that person so we can honor their fallen. And so these notes hopefully will bring healing to folks. They have put their heart and souls into these notes and to remember these people. So we're hoping that it brings hope to the people that are leaving the notes. We hope it brings healing to the community. And we hope that maybe next year we won't have to have as many boots.
These are senior enlisted personnel that are going through this. And something's got to be going on with them that are senior enlisted personnel. These aren't just, you know, E1s, E2s that are going through this nowadays.
It's an ongoing process that we're going to have the boots out. We're going to have them available. They are traveling, so we take them other places, and we bring awareness to other people that process, that moment, hopefully we can reach people before they decide that this is just too much for me.
We appreciate the dedication and service of all of our hometown heroes. And as we say farewell for now, we recognize the service of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. One of their jobs in Hampton Roads is to survey the Elizabeth River.